Hello, hello. Welcome to the show. Episode something. 7? I don't know. I'm going to lose track here really fast. I think we're on 7, but we're live in the studio.
We are.
New time, which is awesome for us.
New time.
We normally recorded these in the afternoon/evening.
It didn't work.
Need that energy, yo.
I realized we were recording them at 4:00, and that was when we had a neighborhood girl come over and babysit. And
Hashtag neighborhood girls. If you want babysitters,
yes,
get on Facebook and hit those neighborhood girls.
oh man, they're awesome. But I would get here and be exhausted after an entire day of being mom, doing mom stuff, and come here, and I was just struggling. So I was like, if I want to give this my full attention, my full energy, we're going to make it happen. So guess what I did? Got on Facebook in our neighborhood group and was like, okay, moms, who can watch my kids for like an hour once a week so that we can record this because it's important. And I want to be energetic and awake. And so we did it. And I've loved it. It's been so much better. And I feel alive.
Ta-da!
Haven't had the day and the chaos of the kids just on yet. So
that is proof that we have a battery, right? We've got a mental capacity. We've got a mental battery, an energy battery. You start at 100 and then it depletes. I think about that often. And that battery just kind of depletes as the day goes on. I try not to make big decisions, important decisions, that kind of thing. I try not to make those after about 3.
Yeah.
Because my ability to make wise decisions and to rationale and have rationale, it just diminishes as the day goes on.
it goes.
So we made it here in the morning, which has been sweet. It's an adjustment though. Move the day around. That goes to things that are of priority, moving things around. But on to this week's topic. That was a side tangent.
Yep, that was. But this week, it's going to be good.
We foreshadowed in previous episodes about that first real date. We went to the movies. We met at the gay club. We went to the movies. We went for a motorcycle ride. And then our real first date where things got real fast. We went to Liberty Park on Labor Day. We went to Cafe Zupa's in Salt Lake and then went to the park and laid in the grass. What did we do?
See, I love that you remember these little details because there's so many things about when we were dating that I do not remember for the life of me.
That's fine.
I did not even remember that we went to Zupa's, honestly. Like, I'm really shocked that you remembered that, but you remember all the little details. So that's fun.
I know what we got.
That's impressive.
Lobster bisque. I got a lobster bisque. You got a lobster bisque because you just recently started having. You're like, this is amazing. You were on a lobster bisque kick. I got a barbecue chicken salad. I don't remember what salad you got. You got a salad though.
It's probably a Cobb.
Probably a Cobb. That's kind of your go-to.
That's probably it. But that's impressive. And that goes to show that you were paying attention.
That was over 10 years ago, by the way.
Yeah. How many?
She was wearing a jean jacket, by the way.
Wow.
Yeah, I got this. I got this on lock.
I'm impressed. I'm so impressed right now. I could not tell you what you were wearing.
Me either.
Like, wow. But you knew what I was wearing.
Knew what you were wearing. It was hot.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Think about that. Like with your partner, how often are you actually fully paying attention that you remember this stuff? And that is really impressive. I'm impressed. But back to this date, it was all the hard conversations. We sat there and we didn't ask, hey, what's your favorite color? Like, this was our third date.
When she says third date, we met midnight Friday into Saturday. This is Monday.
Yeah.
This is not even 72 hours later. So this is how fresh we are into this relationship.
Right.
First date was at the movies, no conversation. Second date was on a motorcycle ride, no conversation. This is our first real conversation.
Yeah. And we had a picnic and sat at the park. And we wanted to get to know each other, but it wasn't What's your favorite color? What do you like to do for fun? We didn't have those conversations. We literally dove right in to the hard conversations because we wanted to really get to know each other.
I asked her, and when we say hard conversations, that conversation will vary as your relationship goes on. Looking back, I'm like, those aren't very difficult questions. 10 years later, those were difficult questions when I had known you for under 72 hours.
Right.
We had not talked about any future life together. We had not discussed getting married. That was never brought up. Realize she is 19. I'm 24. We are laying in the grass in Liberty Park. My first question, or one of the first questions is, do you want to have kids? If so, how many?
Yeah. You wanted to know me. You wanted to actually know if we were even compatible, if we wanted the same things.
Yeah. How many kids? And she said 2 or 3, which was my answer, 2 or 3. And then it progressed on to, how will you handle if we have a wayward child? How will you handle if our son or daughter plays the mom said, dad said game? Who is the one that's responsible? It was on the third day we decided in that moment, and I've never forgot, mom rules.
Right.
If we had kids and they said dad said or mom said, whatever mom said, whether I agree with it or not, by and large, mom rules. And whatever mom says goes. We made that choice and that conscious decision on date 3.
Which is crazy. I feel like most people, they have just the casual conversation, still getting to know you, dip your toe in the water. But what's the purpose? What's the purpose of you going on a date? Is this a date just to have fun, go out and get some food and go play and go interact with someone? Or is this serious? Like, are you dating this person because you want to see if there's a future, if you want to see if this could be something that's long-term, that you could see yourself marrying this person or living with this person? Is that what you're trying to get out of it? Because if it is, then why are you asking them what their favorite color is? Why are you not asking them, what do you do in your hard moments? What is your biggest fear? What is your biggest weakness? What are things that actually have substance, that mean something, that you actually get to know who they are and not just the surface questions?
Superficial questions in a relationship basically just waste time. Flat out. And the reason why I decided, because I started these conversations, and this is a date that I set up, go figure, I set up a couple dates. Not many in this 10 years, but I set up a couple. And the reason why I chose these questions is I can leave her real fast right now. Like, yes, she's very pretty. Yes, we have particular style flavors that we like. I can see that. I can see visual indications that we are somewhat compatible. But I want to know if we're truly compatible on the inside, the way we think, the way we respond, the way we act. And it's very easy right now before I've gained some emotion and some attachment. Yeah, we're not compatible. See ya. You must understand that I had been through several relationships and I was pretty much done. I wrote off girls the Wednesday before I met Michaela. I was like, girls suck. I was hanging out with my friend. He's gay. He wrote off guys. We said, let's just be roomies and rock it out, be bachelors for the rest of our lives. And we decided that the Wednesday before. Funny enough, he met his husband the same night I met Michaela. And they're married too, 10 years later. And it's interesting because if you recall in previous episodes, I gave her my Facebook handle to contact me because I didn't know if she was a creep. Neither did she know if I was a creep. So I had these barriers up that I could just walk away from this person if she's just weird. I met her at a gay club. It's a risk. And having these hard conversations, I can walk away from you right now real fast and real easy if we are not compatible. And we learned very, very quickly that we weren't compatible. And we also uncovered some things really quickly that we knew we needed to overcome. For instance, she may or may not remember this. She was working as a waitress at gyms. Remember this?
Yes.
You want to say it or want me to say it?
No, it's all you.
All right. So she was a waitress at gyms and she was having a really good time. I was having a really good time and she had to leave for work, Labor Day. And she said, I got to leave for work. I think I'm just going to call in sick. And I sat back and I'm like, oh, hell no.
Little did I know.
Oh, hell no. I had employees at the time. I was a manager. I was an employee. I was the VP of a company. And I'm like, dude, if my employees call in sick and they're not sick on a holiday, I would be freaking pissed. And she said, I think I'm just going to call in sick. I'm having a really good time. And I really don't want to go into work. I don't want to work today. And I said, to hell with that. You are going into work. You will not stiff your employer. I wanted to see how she responded. I wanted to see what she would do. I was pretty abrupt and pretty aggressive on purpose. And she said, you know what? You're right. The end.
Yeah, I was having a great time. I mean, this was our first date where we had been talking. We talked over an hour. We were there for a while.
Several hours,
having these deep conversations that I was loving. And I didn't want to leave it. I wanted to stay there. I was having a great time. And then you setting that boundary right then and there, that for me was like, okay, you're right. Like, this is what I need to do. This is important. And I definitely looked up to you for that. Like the responsibility, the maturity, because I mean, I was 19. I was still learning. And
I'm still learning today.
That's true. But that was really cool to see the responsibility that you had in the moment, and then the maturity, which I hadn't had a ton of experience with. But setting those boundaries at the very beginning, that happened numerous times throughout our relationship. And I feel like that is very crucial, especially when you first start dating, that you have to set those boundaries when you first start dating. You have to be like, this is important to me. I'm okay with this. I'm not okay with this. And if you set those at the very beginning, it will be held throughout your entire relationship. You're setting a premise at the very beginning. But if you are trying to impress someone or trying to just let it slide at the beginning and be like, oh, okay, I'll change things down the road, that's not going to happen because your partner will get comfortable with how you are. That is how they know you to be. So you have to set the premise at the beginning of the relationship that this is how it's going to be. This is what I'm okay with. This is what I'm not okay with. Here are my boundaries. And you have to figure out what those are first.
Yeah. And you made a fantastic point that we set a boundary early on. We started our relationship. We've been asked many times, how do you have these hard conversations? How do you bring it up? We're 10 years in. I just flat out tell her. There's no setup now. There's no preface now. For the most part, every once in a while, we have really difficult conversations where I have to or she has to set the groundwork and prepare the other person's mind for a really heavy conversation that I know she may or may not be in the right mindset for. Outside of those really heavy, which that's like 2 or 3 in the last 10 or 7 years.
Yeah.
That I've had to really say, hey, when you're ready to have this conversation, let's sit down and we can have that conversation. Sometimes she says, I'm ready now. And other times she came back a day or 2 later, but we still had the conversation. But we set this premise early on of we have hard conversations and we bring things up immediately. So how do you do this in your relationship from the get-go for people that don't have this practice, this habit? What are your thoughts?
Well, from the very beginning, it's a big red flag if your partner, if whoever you're dating can't have these conversations or doesn't want to, or says, oh, we're not like in a serious relationship yet. Like these are more serious relationship conversations. That's a red flag. Like you should be able to have these conversations from the very beginning. It's called good communication. And if you can create that in the very beginning, then you will continue that throughout your relationship. You're setting that standard from the beginning. If you let them just brush it off or not actually having them answer a question, then that's going to tell you right there that they're going to avoid conversations throughout your entire relationship.
But what about they've been together 8 years? They didn't have that from the beginning.
Start today.
Boom.
Start today. Have the conversations. And it's going to be hard at first, especially if you've been together for a long time. This will be new. Your partner is going to be taken back by it. But listen to this episode together. Have the conversation about having conversations and about having open communication.
If I could drop a mic, I would. Just drop the mic. Start this episode with them.
Yeah.
This can be the icebreaker. You're like, oh man, I have no idea. I need to bring this up. It's very heavy. We've never had a conversation. Listen to this episode. And then when you're done with the episode, say, hey, there is a conversation I think we need to have. Leeway. Right on in, segue into the conversation.
Yeah. And talk about the serious conversations and talk about hard things when you guys are both in a good headspace. You got to start there. Because if you're trying to have these more difficult conversations when one or both of you is stressed, overwhelmed, exhausted, it's not going to go the way you want it to go. You have to both be in a good headspace to start having these conversations and to be like, let's sit down and talk. This is important to me. This is something I want to change. This is something I would like us to work on as a team. And you both have to be on the same page with that.
Yeah. And that progressed all the way to, she's asked me if I've had thoughts of suicide when I was going through a tough situation. I've asked her, have you considered that you're a hindrance and a roadblock to our progression in life? We have talked about when we had a misimplantation for a baby. We've had that many years ago and how to work through that and things to consider. We've had some things, and that's not to say that it's super heavy or super light. You might be going through heavy, much heavier than that, or much lighter than that. Either way, we go through the heaviest we have been through. And that's all that matters.
Yeah.
And having these conversations and having this open line of communication, that is really what everything is about. Because at the end of the day, we choose us. We don't choose I, me, you. We choose us. And it's a decision. And it was an intentional decision. And that is the reason we chose to get married. We had these hard conversations. People say, how do you get to know each other so fast? You met and were married in 9 months. Fairly common for Utah. It's also fairly common for Utah people to get divorced or have a terrible relationship because they don't actually know each other. We knew each other, knew we were compatible because we knew internally what makes the other person tick. Not just what they like, because that will change, but what is their ethical governing boundary on how they make decisions. That won't change a whole lot. That's pretty in tune with who you are internally. And it'll vary a little bit, but for the most part, that stays pretty solid.
Yeah. Well, and it also goes along with, you have to be vulnerable. If you can't be vulnerable and open up to your partner, how do you continue a relationship?
Who else would you do it to?
Right.
Your girlfriend?
This is your
boyfriend?
partner, your teammate.
Dude?
You have to be able to be your most vulnerable, not with your friend, but with your partner.
Yep.
That's where it starts. Because if you can't be open and honest and vulnerable with them, then how do you have good communication? How do you talk? How do you tell your partner, listen, I'm feeling really depressed. I'm struggling. I need help. I can't do this alone. I don't know what to do. How do you have those conversations if first you're not being open and vulnerable, and second, you're not holding space for your partner to actually do that? How can they open up to you if you're not able, if they don't feel like you're a safe space for them, that they can open up to you?
Yep. So to wrap this thing off, have conversations and have open lines of communication. Be vulnerable. Start today if you don't already do this. Will it be rocky at first? Yep. But it'll make you stronger for it. I promise you that. Almost every, and I'm trying to think of any outside situation, every relationship I've ever known to struggle had a communication problem. At it, the root cause, they did not communicate well.
Yeah.
Fix that. You fix most things. Other things fall in line. That's kind of like the big adjustment, the chiropractor, and the rest of them kind of fall in line. That's the big adjustment.
Communication. That's our biggest thing that we've worked on that's helped us our whole marriage is you have to talk. You have to tell your partner how you are feeling in the moment. You cannot wait.
Agreed. So, like this thing, subscribe to it, download it for future listenings. Have this conversation with your spouse, your loved one, your partners, your friends, and share it. That's the only way this episode and this series grows. Love you guys.
Love you. Thanks.
Bye.